Welcome to Releasing Trauma, a Survivor's Podcast. I am your host, Tracy Osborne. I am a survivor of emotional bullying, rape, sexual assault, domestic abuse, and grief. After losing my husband in 2019, I set off on a new adventure to help other women release their trauma and create a life they can cherish. Each week, I will feature a guest expert or survivor to share their stories, tips, wisdom, and more. The goal is so that you can take away even just the smallest nugget of information you can use in your life right now to make a change, and to remind you that you're not alone. There is life after trauma, and you can move from victim to thriver and create a life you can cherish. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Tracy Osborne. With me today is Laura Moseley. We are going to be talking about an aspect of domestic abuse and the control that they have over us. Well, we're going to be talking about financial control, which is not something we talk about a whole lot on the show, but it is one of the ways that our abusers, hold things over our head and keep us in their grasp. So I'm excited to get into this topic. Laura, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, this is a very important topic. So I'm glad to have you on so that we can discuss it. But let's start with, telling us a little bit about your backstory.
Okay. My name is Laura Moseley. I am a single mom of 3. I endured 23 plus years of sexual and domestic abuse. I was married to my abuser. Of course, you start off marriage thinking everything is great, totally in love, and then it gradually, the control sets in. Your listeners already probably know with narcissistic control, it's all about control. Every aspect, physical, mental, spiritual, financial, almost like they want to own your soul. So I endured that through 3 children, left and came back about 5 times. I guess the national average is 7. The final time in 2017 was a pretty violent altercation where he beat me in front of my youngest child, and then fled and made the news, which was kind of embarrassing. And, that he had shot at me the day prior. And I just, it's just one of those aha moments where I'm like, I have to get away. This is dangerous, not just for me, but for my children. And the process of physically getting away and then breaking away financially has been quite the process that I'm still going through. But, that leads us to present day. I work for a social services organization where I get to help people, which is great. And I advocate for domestic violence support, have my own blog, an inspirational Facebook page, and I'm helping to lobby to get a law passed in Indiana protecting domestic violence abuse victims, just being more specific in how the abusers can be held and convicted.
I like that because I think we need tougher laws everywhere.
Absolutely.
There's just, I don't know. I think when it comes to the laws, we're still living in the dark ages.
Absolutely. It's like the white elephant in the room. Everybody knows about it. They just don't want to really talk about it because chances are, if you've never been through any sort of abuse, thank God for that, but you probably know somebody that is, whether or not it's known to you, because the reason I named my blog The Walking Wounded is because we walk around wounded. We're surviving things we don't want to talk about, much less experience. So
yeah, it's not like we're wearing a scarlet letter,
Exactly.
that marks us as abuse victims.
Right.
Because there's so much shame and guilt attached to it. It's my fault. I shouldn't have stayed. I should have left. I should have done this. I shouldn't have done this, So there's so much guilt and shame attached to being a victim. And on top of that, we have to deal with victim blaming.
Exactly.
And it comes at us from the justice system.
Exactly.
It's almost like we have to prove that we were abused rather than them having to prove that they didn't,
Right. And I think if legislators and judges and even police officers, if they knew more about what the trauma bond was,
Mm-hmm.
about how toxic that is, and how it's almost like being addicted to drugs, where we are just like almost magnetically attracted back to these abusers, and that it really takes something, unfortunately, very violent. And a lot of times, the survivors don't actually survive; they die. Um,
Unfortunately.
so I think if they understood that better, I mean, you hear all this talk about trauma informed care, but I think that they don't truly understand fully what that's about. But if they did, then they would be less likely to victim blame.
Yeah.
It's like telling a rape victim, oh really, what were you wearing, instead of, hey, rapist, why would you do that,
Exactly.
and that a lot of people don't get that. And it's amazing how many, when if I knew somebody that even was suspected of abusing somebody that I knew, I wouldn't speak to them any further. But not everybody's like that. And as a survivor, we almost get shunned if we even had together friends, because they're taking the side of the abuser. And obviously, if they went to jail or had to stand trial for something, there might be a little validation to that somehow. Um, I don't know. I can't blame anybody that knows me or knew me and still, gravitate towards him. He's very charismatic. So
As they
I get
usually
it.
are.
Yes.
Usually are. Well, let's talk about the financial control, because that's, they take away everything.
Exactly.
They isolate us. They take us away from our friends and family. They dictate a lot of times everything we do.
Exactly.
What we wear, how we should wear our hair, how we should wear our makeup or not wear makeup, or, I mean, when you said they basically want to own our soul, that's a lot of times that's it. Um, so let's talk about the financial aspect of it, though, because, a lot of times survivors or victims don't leave because they don't have any money. They have nowhere to go.
Exactly. Well, financial abuse is, of course, having to do with anything fiscal, money, whether it's your earnings, signing that over to them, um, credit cards,
Mm-hmm.
even having a job or permission to have a job or keep a job. I mean, this man that I was married to sabotaged interviews for me because he didn't want me working a better job than he. When we first married and I went to college, that's all I was to do is go to college, and I'm like, I need to contribute to this family, so I did work studies, and the work studies were basically minimum wage, but at least I was able to learn and contribute, and that was okay for a while. And then he decided it wasn't, because I got multiple work studies and I earned, as much as I possibly could, because I was going to college and trying to give back and trying to take care of our child. And eventually he was like, you need to be done with school. You need to get a job. So once I got jobs, I live in a rural area, jobs were not very plentiful. So I went through a temp agency and they ended up hiring me. So he was okay with me being in a temp agency, and then goaded me about, well, this isn't very permanent. And then they hired me. So, he kept raising the bar and jumping through hoops, or making me jump through hoops rather.
Right.
And, anything that is dealing with it, it doesn't even have to do with money. It's the making of money or earning of money. Um, they want control of.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's an aspect of your life that they need to have that control over you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you hit it on the head when you said even asking for permission. In a lot of relationships, the woman or the victim, I should say, because it happens with men too, but the victim isn't even allowed to work.
Right.
Um, They might get an allowance that they use for groceries or to pay the bills or something like that. But um, it's a huge way to control somebody when you're controlling, the financial aspect of their life.
Exactly. Their livelihood, that way, if you control that, I guess, in their mind, that you can't exist without them.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I make all the money, therefore, you have to stay with me. Nobody's going to want you with single mom with 3 kids. You might as well just stay with me.
right,
You
right.
know. Um, so, how do we get around that, or get past that? Get out of that, I guess, is actually the right way to say it.
Hmm.
You know,
Are you talking about during or after? Because
both. I mean,
during,
during, you really can. All you can do is just get out.
exactly. Well, I mean, there were some things that I did during. It's funny you mentioned allowance. When I got laid off when the economy turned, and of course, I was berated about that, about how I could let that happen. And then I was going to be a financial drain. I applied for unemployment and got it. But he gave me an allowance for groceries.
Right.
And what I did is I value shopped everything, and I mean value shopped everything. And so I got so good I could put away $20. If he gave me 80 or $100, I could use coupons and I could put away $20. And I had a savings account. At that point I was kind of plotting to leave,
Right.
um, and it was a good ploy until, I left, and then he was oh so sorry. And then of course, you get financially entangled again and you have to use that money to get yourself out of it. So, it's kind of a catch 22 situation. But yeah, getting out is always, a good a good, plan if it's safe for the person to do that. But once you're out, it's very, very difficult um, to kind of get away from that, because if you have children together, a lot of people go, oh, well, there's, child support. Yeah, well, getting child support isn't quite as difficult as getting them to pay it. Or if they disappear, or if they don't have a documented job, that's one way that they're going to control you not
Right.
getting child support. Um, and then taking them through court takes quite a bit of time. So, you
And
know,
money.
exactly. And, you know, that's just another way they're going to control it. I mean, they're probably making money undocumented, under the table, I guess is another term for it. But they're going to control the fact that you don't get anything, and see what you do with that to see if you fail and come back to them.
Yeah.
Um, so
So, now that you're out, what were some of the steps that you took to regain your control?
well, at the same time that I had the final incident occur, we were told that where I was working was closing. So I had to find another job, which is horrible, going through trauma and
Mm.
PTSD and all of that, trying to find a job. Honestly, I got multiple jobs. I had to work like crazy. And, I did apply for child support and finally got that granted. And, then he was paying it as infrequently as he possibly could, which I thought was a jerk move, but, was not really surprised.
Typical. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then he, being an alcoholic, a closet alcoholic, um, I knew it all along, but he got into, in 2018, got into a motorcycle accident where he had been drinking and ended up losing his leg. Um, so I encouraged his mother to encourage him to get disability, and he did that. And thankfully, our child gets a little something from that. My only minor child left. Um, but I mean, it's just a series of multiple jobs, and when I
Yeah.
wasn't working or was underpaid, I mean, there's standing in food lines, there's applying for benefits, welfare type benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, kind of upset at first. I didn't want to take anything away from anybody that truly needed it, but my domestic violence advocate's like, Laura, it's not for you, it's for the kids. You need to do this.
Right.
You are the needy one at this time. It doesn't mean you have to stay there. So, I that resonated with me. So I went ahead and did what I had to do because, you got to feed kids. They want to eat
Yeah.
3 times a day, darn it. And
Yours only
and
ate 3 times today?
yeah. Well, my youngest is now almost 15, so it's probably more than that. But
I was going to say mine eat from sun up to sundown.
exactly. And then they need clothes and they
Yeah.
need school supplies and things like that. So, that's a part of it. And now, he got us, and I say I have a part in it too, but we got into such a financial pickle, this odd weird dance that we had to do, that I'm going through bankruptcy right now. And it's hard because they're taking this humongous payment out of my check every 2 weeks, or out of my bank account.
Right.
And I'm trying to find another part-time job so I can just survive, just because it's very difficult financially, but it's way better knowing that it's peaceful every night instead of being financially difficult and violent. So
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true. Very true. You have to just swallow your pride. And like you said, do what it takes, whether it's getting multiple jobs. I've gone to, plenty of food banks myself. I was on welfare for a long time, with my 2 oldest kids.
mhm.
And, you just have to do what you have to do in order to take care of the kids and take care of you, until you can get back on your feet.
Exactly.
So, well, Laura, this has been fantastic. I can't believe our time is already up. Thank you so much for coming on and, telling us a little bit about your story and talking with us about this financial control. It's, it's just a terrible, just another thing they can hold over our heads.
Exactly.
It really is. Well, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you in the next show.